Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to a new season of Talks with V. We are back from a much needed break, but I'm super excited to get back to doing this good work, this content. Our conversations are always just raw. They inspire healing and growth. And so I'm super excited to get back to that. Well, tonight we are breaking the silence of a topic that has actually often been, I guess you could say, whispered, but it's a conversation that needs much more coverage. And so, without further ado, we're going to get into it. The topic is Beyond the Womb, the journey to fertility. And so, for this conversation, it was important for me to have it because I know so many people who have struggled with fertility. And, also for me, I mean, I'm getting up there in age. And so, that's something that has been a concern, but there's a lot of information that personally I didn't really know about. And so, I'm super excited about my guests that I have joining us today. They are here sharing their story. So grateful for them. And so, first, I would like to go ahead and introduce my cousin, and her name is Amber Bailey. And I'm so excited to have her on today. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you, Miss V. So a little bit about me, the quick highlights. My name is Amber Bailey, child of God. I'm a mother of one toddler. And then I do have a bonus daughter as well. I'm married, beautiful, loving family. And I'm just happy to be here. I have yet to share my journey as it pertains to my fertility experience. So this is an exclusive for you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here and to contribute to the combo.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Miss Kelly Ray.
Kelly, hello, my name is Kelly Ray. Originally from Detroit, Michigan, but I live in Austin, Texas area now. 39, married. Happy to share my journey as well. It's had a lot of ebbs and flows, and I know when I started mine, I felt alone in so much of it because I didn't have anyone that was going through anything similar. So, yeah, that's it. I'm a speech language pathologist. I work with the aging population, do a lot of memory care. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, awesome. So happy to have you guys. Well, as we dive into this conversation, I wanted to start off with the topic of your initial finding out basically that you were going to have a little trouble getting pregnant. And so if you don't mind, Kelly, if you could start us off and tell us about that initial moment that you found out that you were going to need a little bit more assistance to get pregnant.
Absolutely. So for me, I've never suspected that I would have any issues because you just don't. You don't know what you don't know, right? My husband and I, when we first got married, we've been married 5 years now, but when we first got married, we knew we wanted to try for a baby relatively quickly because we were both a little bit older and time was of the essence. And so after about 6 months of trying without success, my background in medicine just kind of, I knew to kind of get some further like assistance or to look into what that was, especially after 35. If you've been trying for about 6 months or so and you're not conceived, they want you to see someone. And that's when I saw a fertility specialist and I was diagnosed with uterine fibroids.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that is a topic. You hear a little bit about uterine fibroids, but not always the connection to infertility. And so it's important for us to talk about this more, especially how it can impact you in other ways.
I do think
Yeah.
it's important to note that not all fibroids cause infertility. Mine in particular did, just because the type that they were and where they were placed, it was blocking any type of implantation. And in the off chance I did conceive with the fibroids, it would probably end in miscarriage. So once I heard that, I was freaked out. I told them that they were tumors or growths or what is that? Is it cancer? Am I dying? Like I didn't know what it was. So
Oh,
yeah, I was really proactive about what the next step was, having had those fibroids.
mhm. Yeah, I'm glad that you were to get you to this point, you know. Soon you'll be some little girl's mama. So we are excited
Been a
about
long journey to get here, but we made it.
yes. So for Amber, how about you? When was the shift that you realized that the journey to motherhood would be different than what you imagined?
Yeah, so I believe I was 36 when I started to try to conceive naturally with my husband. Um, I don't know what I imagined. I mean, I think because I was a little bit older,
Mhm.
I didn't really think it would be a quick, 1 month situation with a positive pregnancy test, 30
Mhm.
days later, um, which you hear about so often. So we did try for 6 months.
Mhm.
And when it didn't happen, my doctor gave us a referral to Kaiser Fertility to
Mhm.
go down that path to take some tests and procedures to kind of diagnose what was going on. And I too discovered that I had uterine fibroids. Particularly, one was pressed up against one of my fallopian tubes, the right
Mhm.
tube. And
Oh,
it wasn't a total blockage, but it was kind of, it was not allowing a nice flow through the tube. And so we knew that that would pose a little bit of a challenge, but my left tube was just fine. And then I also found out I had a larger uh, uh, non-cancerous growth of
okay.
fibroid
Okay.
sitting right above my uterus, and it was a large size. I think when they discovered it, it might have been like 10 centimeters.
Mhm.
And so, as Kelly mentioned, it's probably not the best environment to get pregnant and have a large fibroid kind of
Mhm.
competing in that space with a
Mhm.
growing baby.
Yeah.
So, the next course of action was to get that larger fibroid surgically removed and then
Mhm.
heal up for 6 months, which
Mm.
I did. And then we jumped back into the process with the fertility department to proceed with getting some help with conceiving.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that sounds overwhelming.
It
Dare
was.
to
Yeah,
say.
for sure.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can only imagine just the whole experience. I think because a lot of us, just being a woman, I think too, growing up with that fear, from a lot of our parents, our mothers in particular, well, our mothers and fathers, about that it's more so like you think like, oh, they act like I can just get pregnant just from rubbing up against someone, and so and so I think that for many of us, we don't really think about that. We think, hey, when it's time to, get pregnant, most of us just will, and so to be hit with something like that, this new reality, just seems that like, it could be really tough. And speaking, were you going to say something, Amber? I know you were. You look like you
Oh,
were going to
no.
say something. Okay. Yeah, that's what I, figure about it, and just listening to you guys and your story, from outside of this, it's made me really, take some things into consideration. So yeah. Well, I wanted to touch on the outside world, the noise, and wanted to ask you guys, how did you navigate the sting of the external world? So, meaning baby showers, different baby showers coming up, finding out someone's pregnant on social media, um, just those type of things? Are people asking you about when are you going to get pregnant? When are you guys having a baby? Because maybe you're newly married, or you've been with your partner for, a certain amount of time. A lot of women get those questions, especially when we're older in age, or newly married. So, Amber, I'll ask you, start with you on that one. How did you deal with it? How did you navigate those experiences within the first 3 months or first year of finding out you were going to need a little more assistance with getting pregnant?
I think when I was hit with are you guys having a baby question for the first half dozen times, it was something I just wasn't prepared for. It kind of catches you in your tracks because you want to provide an answer, but I didn't have any answers. Like, I was still going through this process with the fertility department at Kaiser, trying to figure things out. So I got really good about giving them my boilerplate response when asked that question. And it kind of sounded something like, it's in God's hands in his time.
Yeah.
And then they would kind of look at me confused and I would smile back in their face. And then we would go about our busy lives,
Yeah.
I couldn't really stay and kind of tell them this long drawn out process because quite frankly, it is re-triggering. There's a lot about this journey that was uncomfortable that, you don't really want to rehash every other day. And so I kept a lot of those intricacies about the process, the medical stuff, the findings to myself until I had more clarity. Of course, my inner circle understood and I told them, just as much as I knew, but you just can't share all that with everybody. At least that was my approach. And that's how I kind of dealt with it. I think social media, when you see everybody is having a baby when you're trying to get pregnant, it kind of feels that way. And so that is kind of like something you just have to fight through. It's like your time will come, keep the faith, keep believing. If they can do it, so can you, and it'll happen. So.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's a very positive, outlook on it. I know that sometimes maybe when you're at home and you just in that just reflecting, throughout the day, it could be hard. So it's good that you're able to, flip it. You got to flip it sometimes on these people when they're just not minding their business. So, for sure, I would definitely say that. Well, Kelly, how about you? How did you deal with that? Hearing about people's lives just kind of progressing the way that you thought yours would when it comes to growing your family.
When it came to other people who were becoming pregnant, friends of mine, or just on social media, I was genuinely happy for other people. Like when they were excited, because I was in Facebook groups and we were encouraging one another. I was one in a group specifically for Black women. And, I understand it can be very triggering, as Amber said, but I've never had that attitude about it. I can celebrate other people, genuinely be happy and encouraging. Because if anything, that inspired me and gave me hope. Like, okay, this is not my time right now, but my time is coming because her situation is so similar, And as far as other people asking, I want to preface this with, your fertility as a couple is deeply, deeply personal, and people don't really understand that. I think they're well-meaning when they ask questions about when you're going to get pregnant, but my journey has taught me that that's just not something you ask. I mean, you might want to know, but they may not be in a position to have a child, or they may not be physically able. So, I've learned that those questions really aren't always appropriate, even when you're curious. But, after a while, I just, I have a very weird sense of humor, and they would ask me, oh, so when are you and your husband going to have a baby? Are you trying? And I was like, we're trying. I'm doing it on my back, on my side, leg up, leg down. I'm bent over. I made it very uncomfortable for them. And
Like too
after a
much?
while, they, in a box with a fox. Like I said, you have any suggestions? Am I doing the wrong position? Like, because after a while I got tired of being sad about it. And you
Mm.
gotta laugh, or you gotta
Yeah.
find that silver lining in the situation, because if you don't, it's just disappointment after disappointment, and that's a dark place to be. You're already in a place where you might feel broken as a woman. You may not feel adequate. Like, I'm not able to do this. And so you have to kind of give yourself grace, and you
Mhm.
have to give yourself that space to look at the outside situation. Like, I have someone who loves me. I'm doing this with someone who's supportive, and I don't feel alone. I need to just count my blessings, because that's not always easy, especially when you have all this external input and you're just trying your best.
Mm. Yeah, it is all in the right timing and God's timing. I definitely believe that. And so I think that that's beautiful. Both of you, your outlook on it. I think I'm pretty positive, but I do, I could see how some people, they probably get tired, especially if they're positive all the time and they're in this situation where they're scared, or they're not sure. Maybe they have doubts, maybe they're not
Mhm.
strong, in their faith at that time. And so I love you all's responses, especially Kelly, like, I'm trying. You
Listen, we trying.
you want to give us some training, like what's going on, but just make them feel uncomfortable. They kind of rethink some things. A friend of mine, um, I had asked her that question. This was a long time ago, and this was pretty much the last time I asked this question, especially since I hadn't seen her in a while. I think it's different if you're seeing the person, talking to them frequently. You might kind of have a clue, but I didn't. I asked the question, and it was like, yeah, we've been trying for a while. I'm trying to stay encouraged, but they told me that I probably couldn't have a baby. And
Mhm.
so, we're just kind of seeing what other options that we have. And, but they did have a baby not that long ago. He is 1 year old. Yeah. And so I'm like, you got to stay positive, because
Mhm.
doctors will tell you things all the time. You hear stories about people who they said, oh, they weren't going to, speak. They probably wouldn't be able to, formulate words, da, 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 da. And then here they are, a professional speaker, or they're not going to be able to walk because they have something, wrong with their, feet. And then they're a track star, or they're in football, and they're the fastest, like they're fast. Not only are they walking, but they're
Mhm.
running, and so I think that that's, always inspiring, but it also makes you want to say, okay, I'm not going to ask next time. I'm going to kind of let the conversation come up, because like you're right, you are curious. I think we're programmed. Oh,
Mhm.
you're married now when you're having a baby. It's just, I don't know what people do. So, but speaking of the people in your inner circle, as you mentioned, Amber, and Kelly, if you told me before too, just the people who are in your life, very positive. I wanted to touch on, and Kelly, you can answer this question first, about your community. How important was your community, your friends, your family, at that time? Once you started on this journey.
Um, They were crucial. They were very important. Like, my inner circle knew. But as soon as I was diagnosed with fibroids and I had my surgery, I was actually very transparent about it. I made a whole Facebook post because I knew that once I learned about the statistics and how often Black women are diagnosed with fibroids, I felt personally responsible to let other women, especially in my age group, know, like, hey, this is pretty prevalent. And if you're experiencing this, or if you have these symptoms, you might want to get checked, because it could be something. Like, I didn't know. And I would have
Mhm.
kind of saw that, and maybe that would have been my indication to go look at the fibroids a little bit earlier on, because like Amber was saying, they had started to grow. And
Mhm.
but yeah, my inner circle was super, very, like, just supportive. probably overly so, like, "How you feeling today? Are you okay?" You
Right.
know, like, sometimes it's like they mean well, but even that can be overwhelming. It's like, "Okay, I'm good, y'all. Like, I'm chilling. Like, we good."
Right.
But they were wonderful, especially my parents. You know, they just wanted to stay up on what was ever going on with the surgery and, you know, healing. My mom, at the time I was living in Arizona, my husband and I, and of course she flew in from Texas after I had my surgery. Like, my baby having surgery, I'm gonna take care of her. So she's like cooking and making meals for my husband and I. So that's why it's really nice to talk to people and not keep everything to yourself. Sometimes it feels embarrassing, but it's not. You don't know who you could be helping. I had a ton of
Yeah.
girls and women just inboxing me like, "Yeah, I have this. Maybe I should get checked," or "I didn't know
Mhm.
anybody else that had fibroids. Thank you so much for sharing your story," because it was truly encouraging.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you just never know what someone else is going through and how you sharing. A lot of times you're nervous or you're scared, or
Mhm,
the shame, right? That's the whole thing is, breaking the silence. And a lot of folks don't they feel shame just from the little information that they know that kind of scares them from going further, makes them feel like giving up. And then there's just you don't know any of it, and you're just like, okay, maybe it's not in the cards, for me. So I think that is um, definitely something, we can't be afraid to share. If there's something that is going on with us, it, can help someone else. But of course, we use wisdom, we got to use wisdom because you can't share, like as Amber would say, you can't share with everybody.
mhm.
So definitely. So Amber, what about you? What about your journey in the people who were your village, so to speak, family, friends, maybe coworkers, during that time of finding out that information and just going through the whole process?
Yeah, I would say my family definitely knew, but
Hmm.
my closest family members, my mom and my sister, they probably knew absolutely everything.
Hmm.
They were my prayer warriors through that whole 3 years.
Hmm.
They would call every time I had an appointment, sometimes before the appointment,
Mhm.
and asked me what the updates were. I mean, they really just wanted to make sure I was healthy emotionally, physically, spiritually, and they definitely were on me. Like, they had me covered. And so, shout out to them.
Yeah.
I would not want to go through this all alone. And so they
No.
definitely were a great support system. And I wanted to touch on something that Kelly mentioned. I
Hmm.
think because, when women, especially women of color, get into our 30s, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. We don't know to check
Yeah.
for fibroids. We don't know the procedures and the tests that we need to take to make sure that our body is fit and
Mhm.
ready to conceive. And so I wish that somebody would have expressed that to me a little sooner.
Mhm.
And I think the most startling thing that I heard is once they found the larger fibroid, they said, "Oh, well, the size that it's at, it probably means it's been there for 10 years." And I'm
Mm.
like, "Are you kidding me?" I had
Yeah.
no idea. And I think that's important to say because sometimes fibroids do cause pain. They do cause excess bleeding. And I didn't have any of those symptoms. So how would I
Mhm.
know? And
Same.
so
Right.
only,
Mhm.
yeah. So only because I was very good about my regular appointments with my doctor and getting kind of like those tests done is
Mhm.
how I was able to uncover the larger fibroid, which kind of was out of the way because it's literally sitting on top of the
Yeah.
uterus, which is
Yeah.
a kind of a regular position, but I'm sure it happens to plenty of people. And you just have to, talk to your doctor and understand what tests are needed to run those checks. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, the support was on point. I will say that.
That's good. I mean, and this conversation is not just about, I mean, on the woman's side, there's the way it breaks down, I believe, is like 30% on the woman, 30% for the men, and then 30% of a combination, and then they have 10%, which is unknown. So it's very interesting because a lot of these conversations that, well, the ones that are being had, the majority of those conversations, a lot of times it's women, talking about it, support groups, all of that, but it also could be, your spouse or your partner. So, I learned a lot more about that, probably in the last couple of years. There's new studies, this information that, we didn't really realize what was contributing to birth defects, our infertility, that it could be, your husband, or your partner. And that's something I think we have to have a conversation about, but I believe it's so new. And it's kind of uncomfortable too, right? Because there's the ego side, of it all. Like, what you trying to say, about about my swimmers, And I think that's probably tough because the focus hasn't been, on man. So I do think it's important to learn and just everybody get checked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
yeah, I mean, I'm not a medical professional at all,
Mhm.
but I will speak to that a little bit.
Mhm.
A part of our process when we were being seen as patients at Kaiser Fertility is a semen analysis. So
Okay.
the male partner does need to get those little guys analyzed to
Mhm.
see if they are great swimmers, if there are any irregularities,
Mm.
and maybe there's a diet concern, that maybe we need to eat a little better to
Mm.
get a better specimen, because that is a critical component to you making a healthy baby. And so my husband checked out, everything was, fine on his end, but
Mhm.
it is something that we had to do, and we had to update because things
Mhm.
change. So after
Right.
like a year or so, they wanted to do it again. And so it really is a very it's a laborious process, but they mean well, and they just want to make sure that all the components are working well, and timing matters when it comes to like the IUI procedure. Like, there is
Yeah.
no better orchestrated event than the IUI. I will say that in my experience. And so all of that kind of plays a part into, getting the best results. So
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I was going to segue into the process of what treatment, did you use? Was it you mentioned IUI, and did you only do IUI or did you do IVF? I know there's a few different, options that you can do. So what was your option? Was it just the IUI?
yeah, thankfully we did one round of IUI, and before
Mhm.
that, they re- they recommended that I take some oral medication
Mhm.
to allow my body to hyperovulate. That means to produce more than one egg in a single ovulation period, which was great because I was thinking, okay, modern medicine is going to increase my chances of getting pregnant. And then one doctor mentioned, oh, you might even be able to have twins. And I was like, well, that would be great. but that
Think
did not
so.
happen. I just had the one, but I did 3 months, which is 3 rounds of the oral medication. And then that third month, it was the oral meds coupled with my first IUI. And that's what took. And that's how we were successfully able to conceive. And then 2 weeks later, positive pregnancy test. And
Mm.
that long journey wrapped up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We were definitely praying. I was like, "Oh, you gonna get pregnant? I know it." And just praying. I was like, "You gotta just have faith." Because I'm like, I love the doctors when you need them, but there's some situations where you're, you know, you're not getting you're not hearing what you want to hear. And sometimes, you don't
Mhm.
feel like you're getting the treatment that is required, to make you feel secure in the process, or, any type of medical treatment that you may need. So, yeah. And how long was the entire process for you?
About 3 years. So
Okay.
start of 2020, which was the
Mhm.
start of the pandemic. Everything had slowed down. Getting an appointment was a difficult thing.
Wow.
You had to get a COVID test and then schedule an appointment. Imagine going through that for 2+ years. It was a lot.
Mm.
I also had that momentary gap to schedule the surgery to remove the fibroid, recover from surgery. So
Mm.
for a year, I was kind of like in that holding period, where I couldn't really do anything. If you're healing, you can't try to have a baby while
Yeah.
your incision scars are healing, right?
Mhm.
So, but altogether, 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and the pregnancy was the easiest part.
Oh, well, thank God.
Which, yes, it was a nice ending to such a challenging journey. To have a smooth pregnancy. I slept a lot, best sleep of my life. And I had an excellent OBGYN. You
Mhm.
should definitely be very selective and
Okay.
choose somebody who you feel comfortable with, who's going to be an advocate for you and your health, and
Mhm.
has a good understanding of some of the challenges you've been through. And I stayed with her from the beginning all the way up until I had my scheduled C-section. So, like, she was chef's
Mm.
kiss. Um, Hands down, the best guide through this process I could have had.
Awesome. That's great. So Kelly, for you, I know that we kind of jumped in, but I did want to give us, a little bit of time to kind of cover some other things. But how was the process for you, and what treatment, what way did you guys go about getting pregnant? Or I know you mentioned IUI,
Mhm.
but was that the only treatment that you all explored?
No, we explored all options. I mean, after trying and we were just open to whatever they were suggesting, honestly.
Mhm.
And in my case, when we did our analysis, our stigma analysis, because usually when you get into any fertility treatment, they want to cover everything. They want to cover you and him. And it
Mhm.
turns out we had two-factor infertility. So we had me and
Mm.
my fibroids and being advanced maternal age, and we also had some things with my husband and getting its count was low too. So
Mhm.
that made
Mhm.
it more difficult.
Okay.
We actually did 6 rounds of IUI, and it was so exhausting mentally,
Gosh.
physically. It was really, really difficult. But
Yeah.
had I had I to do it over again, I probably would have done 3 rounds and been like, you know what, let's just move on to something else because
Mm.
it was never a good protocol for me. Everybody's different, and I
Yeah.
love when it takes the first time, and that's what I was hearing so much of. So I'm like, let's try this, but God had other plans, and so my husband and I we moved on to IVF,
Okay.
and very first try IVF we were successful.
Now that's awesome. And I know that, we're speaking about, doctors and having a great OBGYN. And I know that you had shared with me too, Kelly, about when you were doing the IUI, um, uh, that you kind of felt like you weren't getting the treatment that you needed. And that it was kind of like you guys weren't getting anywhere. I think that was around the time that you still had the fibroids, right?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. At the time, I was with a clinic that, in hindsight, really didn't have my best interest at heart. It
Mm,
was just like, because a lot of fertility treatments are out of pocket. Very few jobs
mm,
cover it entirely, if at all. And so we were spending, and they were just continuing to give me this particular fertility treatment that just was not going to work for me. And I didn't know that until I switched because something just felt wrong. I couldn't quite put my finger
mm.
on it, but I was like, no, I'm not doing another round. This isn't working, and I switched doctors and Um, I think she was from Cuba, if I'm not mistaken. And she just looked at my chart and she was like, you were never going to get pregnant with these fibroids. These are very aggressive, blocking fibroids. If you think about a uterine cavity being kind of like that, and so mine was like this. And so it was this huge bowing. I had the kind of fibroids that were called intramural. So they were in the muscle and causing all this like space limitation. And like she was mentioning before, you don't always have symptoms. I had none. I had no idea. I wasn't having painful cycles. My cycles were regular. I wasn't a heavy bleeder. I had no abdominal distension. I was just living life with fibroids and didn't know. So um, it was just interesting. But the IVF journey was pretty much very similar to, well, not very similar, but it has some similarities to IUI in that you have to be on medication. You have to prep your body to produce more eggs per cycle. They want to throw everything at it, right? So you release one egg every menstrual cycle. In my case, when we did my egg retrieval, I think they retrieved 36 eggs. So I was like, that's a lot of the eggs.
Yes.
And I was just like, whoa. And so, yeah, the whole IVF process is a lot of steps. I know we don't have so much time, but in the end, the long and short of it is they want to take your egg and your partner's sperm, and either they want to combine it in the Petri dish or they actually want to inject it. And in our case, we did the injection because that was like the best thing for us. And then they transferred the egg back in, and few weeks later, it was a positive pregnancy test.
Oh my goodness. That's just so inspiring, especially, just for those people who are out there who are going through it and, maybe they're thinking like, oh, we've been trying for a year, just to hear Kelly, how long was your process? How long?
From start to finish with all the things that we tried and all the interventions up into IVF, about 5 years going into 6.
Wow. That's what I'm saying. So, and then here's a positive outcome, overall. And I just think about that because a lot of times in life, I'm sure all you guys can, relate. When you're going through something, for a good amount of time, you're like, okay, when is it going to turn around? I would like to see some brighter days, but it can feel just like you're carrying the weight of the world. So I think it's super inspiring because Amber was about 3 years and you're 5 years. So and things just turned around, Oh gosh, that's so inspiring. But what was I going to ask about with this process? So with the medication, that's what I wanted to touch on. The medication that you're taking, before, or is it before? It's before you start everything else. You take it for a certain period of time. Was yours the same?
Yes.
First? Okay. So
before
during
and
that,
after, actually.
Okay. So
in IVF case, it's a little different with IUI.
Okay, so correct me. Help me out. When you do IUI, do you have to do like shots? I'm just going off what I see on the TV. They're like getting shots. They're taking, I don't know, is it hormones? Where they have to do shots. Is that IVF or IUI?
I didn't need to take shots.
Okay.
So I just did the oral medication. I think there's a couple options for the oral meds. This is called that helps your body to hyperovulate. I believe I was first prescribed something called Clomid, which I heard probably wasn't the best option. Then I was prescribed letrozole, which I believe was a more potent, successful option across the board. And I was like, well, why didn't I start with that? I'm again just taking the doctor's word for it, right? So it was the letrozole that actually I coupled with the first IUI, and that was how I was able to have the successful conception.
Okay. And did you feel like your hormones are all over the place? Did you notice like a different Amber?
That's a good question. So from what I recall, there were more side effects with the first option, Clomid. And
Okay.
what I remember is it said, oh, it could have mood swings and, I think there were some other things. I didn't experience a whole lot of side effects, thankfully. But the second option, it was perfectly fine. I didn't have a lot of issues with it.
Okay.
But it varies. Everybody is different. Everyone responds differently to the same medication. So just never know.
That's true.
Right.
Because when I was on Clomid, it had me seeing spots, like literally spots. It was freaky. So they tried different things, but Clomid was not my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what am I just out there when I'm thinking about the shots? I thought that, in some cases they do shots, I guess, to get your body ready, or is that part of the process to get more eggs to come down? Is that what you guys are taking the oral medication for?
When I did my IUI, I did a cycle of oral medication. I think I was giving there may have even been a suppository at some point in the process, but I did have a shot as part of my protocol. Each protocol is different because each diagnosis of infertility is different. So they kind of tweak it based on your blood work and your response to other things. So in my case, I did the oral medication, and then I did what was called a trigger shot for me to ovulate, and they have to time it just right, within like a small window of that shot to get me in the clinic to do the IUI procedure. So you are right. It just depends on the protocol because they're not all the same.
Okay.
I remember hearing about the trigger shot, but I think if the timing of your ovulation is set up correctly with your appointment, then you probably wouldn't need that trigger shot to kind of start the process. It kind of helps you to trigger and start the process. So,
okay. Well, what about you, Kelly? Did you have any mood swings where you turn it into?
No. Well, let my husband tell it. He probably gonna say something different, but I felt fine.
Out of my head. We might have needed the husband.
I was wonderful. No, my worst side effect was weight gain. I had a ton of weight gain. I had a trigger shot, and that was a gonadotropin. It's something, weight gain is like it's kind of like the birth control shot. You ever heard when girls say, oh my God, that blew me up? Like that was a side effect for me. And mind you, I did 6 rounds. So I was doing months and months and months of it. And so that was pretty intense because it was uncomfortable, nothing fit. I was just bloated. It was like water. It was just a mess. So but it was part of the process. I just charged into the game, I guess. But I think that was pretty much. I didn't have any nausea. When they increased my dosage of the oral medication, the Clomid, that's when things got a little like I was dizzy, lightheaded, and I started seeing spots. And they're like, okay, that's too much. Let's lower it. But it just wasn't a good man for me. I just didn't respond that great to it.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, just from the little that I've heard about, the details, just seems like it was not that, it's not a pleasant process. So just to, just thinking about going through that process for as long, as you guys have gone through it, and then to it not being, a pleasant process. It just makes you, just think about the things that you need to get ready for. Is there a better way? Is there anything that, is recommended to do, I guess, before it is that you get started, with these treatments? Anybody?
Well, I did a little research. I was on TikTok a lot looking at other women's IVF journeys before I started. I will say IVF is a different animal. You are on a lot of injections. You are poking yourself every single night for months on end with medications to prepare your body. So that was a little intense. But I will say that, it wasn't nearly as bad as I had heard.
Okay.
It's a very tiny insulin needle. You get used to it. You change your location. It doesn't. But I knew every shot brought me closer to my baby. So I'm like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it. I'm gonna just do what I gotta
Okay.
do. And it
Okay.
wasn't that
Yeah.
bad. I had a really good support system. Sometimes my husband would give me my injections, and then that
Okay.
was it. It went by because everything is scheduled. It goes by quickly. So it's not like you're
Okay.
just going through this process and it's taking forever and nothing's happening. Like they're letting you
Mm.
know, okay, you're going to do this for this many days, and that's going to
Okay.
get us here. And then you're going to do
Yeah.
this. So you're like walking through it, and you always have something to look forward to. And in my
Mm.
case, it was, egg retrieval day, and then it was transfer day. So it was always something to keep you going, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be.
Oh, okay. That's good. They say you forget anyways. Once you get pregnant, you have your babies.
Same with the
So
process. It was
you'll
like
forget.
I would do it 10 times again if it got me
Oh,
my end result. It was just so worth it.
yes. So I'm super excited, for the little one to get here. Teen girls. Woo,
Yeah.
woo, woo. But I love my baby, Amber, I love your baby though too. He's a little boy, beautiful little baby. I love him, but I'm just, the girls, I feel like you just know what to do because we're ladies, but
Yeah,
I'm sure if one day if I ended up having a boy, I would be obsessed as I
for
am with my
sure.
nieces and nephews because they're just everything. So well, next I wanted to just go into advice. That is something that I think some people are, when they come across this video, they are going to be looking for that encouragement. We've kind of gone through the process, a little bit about the process and the journey, but if there's someone who is watching and they are just uneducated about it, or they're actually going through the process and they're discouraged, what advice and what advice and can you give or inspiring words for them? Amber, go ahead. I would love to hear you tell us. Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
No, I want you to go last because I know that we were talking about some things. So I want you to go last. Kelly, if you could share words of wisdom, encouragement, advice.
I'm just trying to reflect back on what I would do differently, or what, once I found out, do I wish I would have known earlier? I would say if you're a woman and you're considering pregnancy and you're in your 30s and beyond, even if pregnancy isn't an immediate goal, I would still get fertility workup just to know where you stand. Because if you know if children are in the cards for you and you're getting older, it's always not, and I don't mean just an OB because they're not specialists. That you need someone who's going to give you that blood work, that panel, see kind of what you're working with, and that'll kind of help guide your decision about your fertility. Do I want to freeze my eggs, or do I have plenty of time? As we get older, those numbers do decline, but not nearly as much as they make it seem. But it's good to know where you stand. So I would say get a full fertility workup. So you know your AMH levels, that's an indicator about egg. It's not an exact number of how many eggs, but it's a good indicator if you're good for a while and quality and whatnot. And just in general, just advocate for yourself. If something does not feel right, if something does not sound right, you have the right to question it. Your medical care, if you don't like your practitioner, switch. You're not obligated to stay with that person. Advocate for yourself. Um, and I guess in general, just give yourself grace. I said that before, and it's not, if you're having difficulty conceiving, like, you're not broken, you are worthy. This is your journey. And there are so many options out there for women who are experiencing infertility, more than you would ever realize. And so just stay hopeful and, stay encouraged.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly. And Amber, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share some words of wisdom and advice for our
Yeah.
viewers
So
today.
I agree with I agree with everything Kelly said. I think when it comes to advocating for yourself, it's so important to ask
Mhm.
questions. I think it empowered me
Mhm.
to have a good understanding of what the process actually looked like and how everything was kind of working together. So in every appointment, I would ask questions because that understanding of the process gave me more confidence.
Mhm.
You know, it gave me kind of like clarity, it gave me the drive. And I just felt more involved and connected with like what I was doing, what my body was going through. So I think it's advocacy for yourself is so important. If you have anybody in your family that is in the medical field, sometimes it's nice to bounce things off of them. If your
Mm.
doctor is recommending something and you have a nurse practitioner or a doula or, you know, some type of medical professional in your family, I wore my aunt out. She was a nurse practitioner. So I would always go back to her and say, what do you think about this? And she
Right.
would like ask her OB friends, and we would all kind of come to the same understanding. And I was like, yes, I
Mhm.
need that. I need confirmation. I need people that love me to actually
Absolutely.
be on board with this plan because
Mhm.
I don't have all the answers, right?
Mhm.
And then also when it comes to like your prayer life, if you are a person of faith, I think it's so important and critical to just trust God through this process. Like
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, in my faith, you know, we're
Mhm.
praying about things and we're like,
Mhm.
you know, God, I'm desiring something that I know is a desire of yours, you know, and you're asking these questions like, why isn't it happening? When is it my time? And
Mhm.
God knows the right time. You know,
Yeah.
he's orchestrating things in the background to get you to that perfect place at the perfect time so that you can have the best possible outcome. And that's what he did for me. And
Mm.
so I think, you know, absolutely just stay with it, trust God and his timing. And he'll get you there. You know,
Mm.
no fear,
Mm.
all faith.
I like that. No fear, all faith. That needs to be the motto all year, all year long, for sure. Oh my goodness, I love it. Well, I did want to before we, close out. I did want to give you guys an opportunity to share your social media handles or anything that you guys have going on or working on currently. But I know there's the audience will probably want to follow you all just after listening to your stories, feeling inspired. So, if Kelly, if you have social media that you would like to
Oh, I
share,
do. What is my Snap name? My TikTok name, I mean, I forget,
your
but maybe we can
typical.
post it later.
No,
Because
we
I
definitely
do
will.
show like little videos of like our embryo gender reveal and when I told my parents, and that's
Yes,
been
that was
super
great.
cute. I do plan on adding some more content. I've just been
Yeah.
wiped out. But on my Instagram, it's Kelly Kale Kales. It's open. It's mostly just like pregnancy stuff right now because that's my whole world. But
Yes,
like, you know,
yes,
yeah, feel free to follow.
absolutely. I'm crying every time you post a story.
It's intense. No one talks about this part.
It's hilarious. I'm like, this is just pure comedy.
Yes,
Like,
it's a lot of like pregnancy comedy, which is kind of funny because, it's very my personality to talk about the parts of pregnancy no one wants to discuss.
exactly, exactly. I'm like, oh, Kelly is just having fun with this
I
for sure.
am. I'm having a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness. And Amber, I know you've got, social media that's dedicated, to moms. So if you could share
Yeah.
your social media handles, how people can, reach you, follow you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was inspired to jump on YouTube one day, and my motherhood journey was me at age 40, first time mom, and trying to figure out like the most efficient way to do everything because I'm a working mom and I'm a brand new mom and things have changed. You know, I asked my mom and generations before me questions about, you know, babies and toddlers and all the phases. And, you know, things have changed. So like I needed some new answers. I needed some new ideas. And when I learn something, I'm very inspired to share it with other new moms that are kind of in a similar boat. So I created YouTube. It's a channel called Mommy Goals. And in kind of like the description, I say, I am not the goal because, you know, you're not trying to be like me, but we're setting goals as moms. And that's what I'm trying to do is inspire people to like, let's do this thing. Because I'm one and done. This is my one and only child I'm having. So I want to do things to the very best of my ability in this first and last run. And so I'm inspired by others and I want to share what I've learned. I also have a TikTok and a Instagram, which the handle is You Are Mommy Goals. I had to do it a little different. So anyway, I post fun short videos about crazy toddler mom life and fun baby products and like, you know, the crazy things that you run into, like, you know, food allergies in kids, you know, all that fun stuff. So feel free to follow. I post early and often. So yeah.
Yes, I love that. And I love how also on your station, you know, you share things, you know, about your little one, but also, you know, glam, you know, having fun, because I think that that's really important. No, for real, I have to like mention this, how inspiring that is too, because I talk to Amber a lot, okay? And I know that when she got pregnant, I was super excited, but towards the end, you know, of her pregnancy, I was like, oh, she's going to turn into the rest where they have no time. You never get to talk to them. Like my world is getting ready to change. I know that sounds kind of terrible, but I was thinking it. I was thinking it, and it did it. I was just really like impressed, not just for me, of course, but just that as becoming a mom, it didn't. It's like he's a big part of it, right? You know, but also she had that, you have that balance. You have that balance. You know, you still, you know, do things, take out the time for you to have a little me time, a little mommy time, but, you know, me time as Amber, you know, to enjoy, you know, those things and relax. And I think that that's really great, you know, too, and inspiring, you know, for those who check out your page, because, you know, I think a lot of times women, you know, you lose yourself, and I'm sure parents can too, where they don't remember like, oh, when's the last time I had fun by myself? So it's important to, I think, to have that balance. So yeah, definitely shout out to you, Amber, on that. Show us.
Thank you.
Show us.
No, I think, you know, we're women first. And I think it's so important that when you get this new role of motherhood, you don't lose yourself and your autonomy. The time that you can get for yourself and to pour into yourself allows you to be happy and whole so that you can pour into your child. Like children don't want stressed out mama. They want happy, whole, fun, full mama. That's going to meet them as much as possible. Like, you know, we know that motherhood comes with its challenges, but like you gotta think about yourself first, and don't forget you're a woman first. We have needs, wants, desires, and you cannot let that go just because you're adding to your family and you're adding to the role of, you know, womanhood, you know. So.
Absolutely. No, I think that that's important to make sure that, you know, you're your best self. Also, that the stress levels, you know, like you said, no one wants to stress mama, but even before that point, you know, it's important to make sure that those stress levels are down. And I'm sure that can contribute. If you have high stress, it's going to make it hard, you know, for you to get pregnant. I've heard that before, and I can see why, because it's just adding additional stress onto your body. So everybody, to our audience, I thank you so much thank you just for rocking with us and being here and just getting your input and comments. So make sure that you share this video because you never know who is going to need this, or even, I mean, just share it. I share things with people who maybe are not in this situation, or I might not, realize that they are. And I think that that's great because they don't have to actually, divulge all this information to still get help and still get, those words of wisdom and encouragement that they didn't know that they needed. So I thank you guys for that. I thank you guys for being here tonight. And we do have support groups, lots of information. I shared some resources. They will be in the description box, or it'll be in the description for all of you to review and just, get the help, that you need and resources and information. So absolutely check that out. And and so what I would like to do before we end, Amber, I know we discussed this, is for you to take us out with a prayer.
Yes, I got you, girl.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to put a little God in it. As I was going through my journey, sometimes I would not be able to pray for myself. So for anybody who is in that place where you pray it out, and you feel like, all you can do is sow in tears, I just wanted to pray over you if you're in your fertility journey. So, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you right now for this amazing opportunity to share our fertility testimonies. Lord, I pray that our journey will help someone and give them wisdom, ideas, and revelation that they need to push through this journey. I pray a special prayer for the moms and dads that want to expand their families. I pray that their desires are in line with your desires for their life. I pray for encouragement. I pray for your helping angels to encamp upon them in this journey toward parenthood. We know you are capable of all things, and so we put our trust in you, Lord. We know that you can deliver on all of your promises to us. I pray for positive pregnancy tests, healthy babies being delivered. I pray for smooth pregnancies throughout, and medical workers that warmly usher us through this tireless process. So, Lord, thank you right now for the abundance. I thank you right now for allowing us to be fruitful and multiply. Lord, thank you right now for healing our bodies and making them fit for this assignment. And I ask all these things in Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you so much for that. Oh, this was a treat. Just, learning so much, about this journey, because it's something that's important to me. So, I've taken some notes down for the things that I haven't checked yet, to make sure I get them checked. I'm like, I thought I did all I'm supposed to do, but Kelly helped me realize that there's a few more things that
doesn't hurt.
Absolutely. And so I feel like when the time comes, if that's the journey that I have to go on, I will be a lot more prepared than I was before talking to you all about this. So again, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you all have a wonderful night. And to be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. You can't do it all. A lot of this you got to leave in God's hands. So yeah, that's my end note. And until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.